All right, Sarah, thank you very much. My name is Jim Ward. I'm CEO and founder of BrainSell. I really want to welcome everybody here today to this topic, which is how to sell and market in times of uncertainty. Certainly feels a little odd selling and marketing during these times. I've certainly personally been through a lot, the recessions. You can probably tell from my gray hair that I've been through a lot. It hasn't been 100 years, but it's been a good number of years, okay? So, and we have a great group of panelists here today to talk to you. The real objective and the reason why we put this together is we really wanted to create a sense of community. There's nothing to sell. This is a chance to share ideas that perhaps we've been working on over the last 4 weeks. We've been working very hard inside of BrainSell to come up with ideas, to come up with levers and triggers. Should we hit certain things, watching for our financials, et cetera. But we want to talk about, selling and marketing in times of uncertainty, and certainly any other questions you might have. So what we're going to do is give this sense of community. You guys are all going to have a chance to ask questions. I really want you to be involved. Ask those questions, whether it's live or via question chat, and we'll get to them. What I want to do next is have each of the panelists introduce themselves. And what we're going to do is a baton handoff. So I will introduce the first person and they'll hand it off to the next. So the first person I will introduce is Todd Capponi. Todd?
Yes, I'm so excited to be selected first. So yeah, I'm Todd Capponi. I am a multi-time sales leader / behavioral science, decision science nerd, which has got me into some trouble in that I was VP of sales through the last downturn, 2007 to 2009. And then sales leadership team of companies like ExactTarget through their build up IPO, and we sold that business to Salesforce back in whenever that was, 2016, for a couple billion, which is with a B, which is crazy. I went on to be the CRO of a company called Power Reviews in Chicago. And when I say it got me into trouble, we did a research study, and the data from it changed my perspective on B2B, human-to-human selling, caused me to write a book called The Transparency Sale. And I actually just won the Best Sales Book Award for 2019, so I'm really excited about that. And now I speak and teach for a living. So with that, I'm going to pass the baton to, let's see, can't tell who looks most excited, so I'm going to go to Tom Stam.
I appreciate it, Todd. And thanks for inviting me to be a panelist, BrainSell. I appreciate the opportunity. So I'm Tom Stam. I'm an individual contributor, account executive with SugarCRM, and much like a lot of people on this call, just trying to figure out, what to do now, how to handle the environment and the situation. So as much as I'm looking forward to contributing, I'm also looking forward to hearing everyone else's thoughts and feedback as well. I'll throw it over to Sarah.
Hey everyone, I introduced myself briefly at the top of the call, but I'm Sarah Reed. I am the Vice President of Marketing here at BrainSell. So over the last 2 to 3 weeks, we've had a lot of internal discussions around how to pivot our marketing strategy and our approach during this time, and how to better work and align ourselves even closer than we already were with sales, to make sure that we were aligned on the approach as well. And out of those discussions actually came this idea for this virtual water cooler series. So excited to talk more about different marketing strategies and sales strategies and approaches over the next hour. And I'm going to toss it to Logan.
Thank you. Logan Henderson, General Manager for Marketing Automation at SugarCRM, overseeing our full suite of marketing technology products. So obviously a very interesting time to be marketing and engaging with prospects and customers. Have a great rapport going with many of our customers, and how they are continuing to drive engagement with their prospects, and how they're continuing to build brand awareness. And excited to share some of those insights, and also share the insights of the people on this roundtable. So look forward to speaking to everyone. And then I guess Sonya, last but certainly not least, I'll kick it over to you.
Thank you, holding the baton. Tanya Frydo, president at BrainSell, and I help lead our sales team, and I'm involved in day-to-day sales myself. So hitting the phones and still interacting with the rest of our sales reps to see what they're facing, and have been at the company for 10 years, was a journalist before that, and we're based in the Boston area. So we're kind of in a little bit of a hot spot, I guess, on the East Coast here. So we're physically in the Boston area. Tom, I know you're in Raleigh. Logan, you're in Atlanta, and Todd, you're in Chicago area, right? So that's physically where we all are. So Jim, I'll hand it back to you.
Hey, thanks, Sonya. You know what I forgot to do with part of the housekeeping? Everybody Purell. So, okay, a little bit of Purell. It's just part of the thing now. Okay, so, you know, during this period of time, we have a lot of downtime, some downtime, or time to ourselves, or spending time perhaps looking for things to do. We do a lot of reading at BrainSell. We have book clubs. First of all, congratulations to you, Todd, for the award. And
Thank you. Nice.
There you go. I'm an Audible guy. We talk about in BrainSell always keeping a sharp axe. And I won't tell you my lumberjack story, but you know the lumberjack with the sharpest axe chops the most wood. So it's about keeping up on current times. It's about reading, listening, podcasts, things of that nature. I'll tell you what I have been doing, and I'm going to ask each of our panel members what they have been doing, what they're listening to, what they're reading right now. And I would ask the audience members if you would please put into the chat box, what are you reading? What are you listening to? It's really important to us because we want to see what the trend is, what folks are doing, and we'll share it later on. So I have been a big fan of the Transparency Sale, and that has been one of our keys. I also go on to a lot of podcasts, be that John Barrow's podcast, Sales Hacker, Sam Jacobs, Gary V. So those are the things I've been spending some time with. Todd, keeping with the order, what are you reading? What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm a behavioral and decision science nerd. Here's what I did. So I think it was 2 Fridays ago. I'm sitting on the couch. My kids are playing the Nintendo Switch like ad nauseum. Like they're playing Minecraft, which I don't even understand. And I start to drift into boredom. And as I did, I started to get ideas. And so I ended up shifting and looking at, because I like to read research, I was reading research around 2 things. Number one is, why do we get our best ideas when we're not clouded by all kinds of things to do, like, you know, in the shower? And Einstein actually has a quote about that, saying that most of his great ideas came when he was not being focused on anything. And so, like, I've been reading the research around that, and then I've been reading the research around, if you look at the Fortune 500, you know, 60% of those companies were founded during downturns. Now, that's crazy, given that only 1 out of every 3 to 5 years is in a downturn. Why? Like, why do our best companies get founded and our best ideas come from times like this? So that's what I've been reading, and I'm trying to put my finger on why, and like, why can't we take those learnings and apply them to upswings? So that's me. Tom, what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm very much influenced emotionally how my mindset is, and so a big part for me, and especially in just, you know, when you're not able to interact with a lot of people face to face, a lot of it's for me is just about my mindset. There's a podcast that I really love. It's called Impact Theory by Tom Bilyeu, and he interviews all sorts of people that have done extraordinary things, whether it's professional, religious, athletic, whatever it is, but just, you know, that have done incredible feats and accomplishments, and how they did it and their mindset behind it. So it's all about the growth mindset. So I really like that. And then also it's about, I think, just keeping that mindset. So a lot of it is just focusing on things that make me happy. And so listening to music, I like to, a lot of it is, you know, if I'm trying to get in an excited mood and just get ready to go, I really like punk rock music. So sometimes I'll just throw that on and kind of get the drum going and just get the beat up. Other than that, it's mostly people I follow on LinkedIn, just getting some, you know, when it comes to like sharpening the sword professionally. There's a guy who started, it's called the Sales Rebellion. which I'm a big fan of. And it's a guy by the name of Dale Dupree who really just puts out just genuine sales leadership and content and practical insights that people can follow that are I've benefited from greatly. So a lot of it is just getting, actual people that I can follow and look and mirror on. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on. How about you, Sonya?
So on the positive side, and Todd, I really like your point about companies being founded in hard times. I've always been a fan of How I Built This, the NPR podcast, that along the same lines of, Tom, what you said, inspirational stories from people who started really big businesses they're now big businesses. I like to get in that mindset, and they're like 50 minutes. So it's great for like a little road trip, or now like when you're cooking. And How I Built This is inspiring. It really lets you understand the ground level of how people started businesses, and they're usually just normal people. So that's really inspiring. It gets me upbeat. Also, I'm a huge Jay Barrow's follower, as well as Todd Caponi. But Make It Happen Mondays is great with John Barrows. He's really like no nonsense and cuts to the chase. His LinkedIn is awesome too. So he's had really good tips for this crisis. And yeah, NPR podcast, I'm seeing in the chat, How I Built This. They even have a conference around it. It's awesome. Definitely download it. What about you, Logan?
Yeah, following on the NPR train, I'm a little bit of a news junkie. So Up First is one of my go-tos. Love that. Love The Daily by New York Times.
Yeah.
So start off with those, and then just to kind of get out of the mindset a little bit. Big fan of Revisionist History by Malcolm Gladwell. He's got a really interesting one on the Obscure Virus Club, which right now is quite fitting. So pretty cool concept there. And then my one little kind of self-help book that I'm reading right now is Atomic Habits by James Clear. And it's talking about how, small incremental changes yield massive results. So it's great just because it's not, throw it all up in the air and start fresh and start new. There's a little bit of that, but it's more just kind of being introspective in how you start your day, on what you do throughout your day, how to be more productive. And I think when you're stuck inside and trying to adjust to a new norm, taking a step back and realizing, do I roll over every morning and pick up my phone? Or what's the, do I do the same thing over and over again when I get a cup of coffee? Just putting that into kind of perspective has been interesting to kind of look in my day-to-day now that I'm confined to a space that's a little bit smaller than I'm used to. What about you, Sarah?
So the book, I want to actually make a recommendation for the marketers on the line. If you haven't read They Ask You Answer by Marcus Sheridan, now is a great time to reevaluate your content marketing strategy. And the book, it offers tactical tips in terms of how to structure your content so that it's helpful for your audience, it's useful, which that's the kind of content we need to be putting out as marketers these days. And of course, it helps with generating traffic to your website and SEO and all that other stuff. So They Ask You Answer by Marcus Sheridan. If you haven't read it, definitely pick it up if you're a content marketer.
Great book. Great book.
How about you, Jim?
Well, I've already said what I read, but I was thinking about what Todd said and how Einstein, you find opportunity in downturns. I have found through the course of my life that there's always opportunity, and there's opportunity. People may refer to it as a silver lining, or people maybe, I just see, and when things go bad, there is opportunity. Perhaps it's a part of a positive mental attitude. I'm a big believer in PMA, positive mental attitude, and working the mind so that you have the ability to see it. And so it's there, and it's here today. Even today in this tough time where it's crazy, there's opportunities for all of us, and that's why we're all here. We're all here because we want to share these ideas. We want to uplift you. We want you to figure out what those things are, and we'll share ideas again today. The other thing is, it doesn't always have to be, I think sometimes it's not just reading for professional reasons. Sometimes, because particularly where we're stuck in our homes, we may be by ourselves, or we may be with loved ones, but we're still stuck in a way. I love that Facebook post. I don't know if you've seen it, where the fella's asked if you're going to be quarantined for 10 days, A, you want to be with your wife and children, or B, and he says B right away. He doesn't give it a shot. So So humor, I think reading or getting on Netflix and watching some comedic things, it helps open the mind. You laugh, laughter, big. Okay, so we talk about uncertainty, Todd, and I think it makes sense to open this discussion around the concept of uncertainty. We as human beings, because it's even though it's whether you're doing business to business, business to consumer, you're still dealing with human to human. Talk us through the impact of uncertainty and how it's impacting our customers and prospects right now.
Yeah, it's funny. I guess it's not funny, but the way our brains are wired to overreact. So we see a lot of that going on. And I think back to this, how does uncertainty and times like these draw us into new ideas? It's because you can actually read people's minds during this. And here's what I mean. I want everybody on the call to just think for a second about when you enter a time of personal uncertainty or maybe a personal recession, like what do? The first thing you probably do is you eliminate all of your discretionary spend, right? So if you've got a personal trainer, maybe you stop that because you're not going to the gym. My wife and I were driving by a furniture store and my wife was like, oh gosh, you know what? We need a new couch. But then she looked at me and she's like, that's going to wait, right? So we're all doing that around discretionary. Number two is that we're focusing on essentials. So we're looking at what are the things we absolutely need and how do we extend our runway on them? So how do we take the essentials and get the price down and extend our cash runway too? And then the third thing we do is we're looking to reduce risk, right? So again, we're wired to overreact. It's what's kept us alive as a species for 1 billion years. So we hoard. Like I'm getting the mail using salad tongs, right? Like it's all those things that we're doing to reduce risk. So let's take that to our customers and prospects. So that's you. Your customers and prospects, first of all, probably weren't in their jobs the last time there was a downturn, right? Like a lot of them weren't even in the workforce in 2007 to 2009, much less in their current jobs. So they're all falling back on what they know, which is how they react personally. And in their businesses, they're doing the same things. All of your businesses that you're talking to are getting rid of discretionary, focusing on extending runway on essentials and extend their cash and reducing risk. So the first thing that I want everybody to think about is empathy. When you're reaching out, if your messaging was developed during an upswing, it's probably not going to work. So it's time, for all the sellers and marketers out there to reevaluate and recreate your messaging around those things. Here's the funny thing, and this is so counterintuitive, is that revenue growth. Notice I didn't mention revenue growth in any of the things that we're thinking about. If your message has to do with revenue growth right now is a nice to have. I know that's crazy, but take revenue growth out of your messaging and focus on elimination of discretionary, extending runway on essentials and reducing risk. And you're going to get a lot more connection with your customers. I've seen some companies that have really successfully done that shift. And me personally, I used to do sales training. Like who the hell wants sales training right now? But what people really want is they want advice on how to get through this. And so I've had to shift. I've actually redone my whole website in the last 3 weeks for that shift. And I think we've all got to be thinking those things. So that's it, right? Be empathetic to the way that you're personally dealing with this, because you're selling to human beings. They're dealing with this in their personal life and in their corporate life, and align your messaging to that. You're going to see a lot more success.
That's terrific, Todd. We internally, one of the ideas that I'll share here is that we as a complete company called all of our customers just to check in. We just want to see if they're okay. What's the impact? Understand the impact on them. We've provided a cost plus reduction in cost to be able to help them continue servicing if they need it. I'm not looking at revenue growth right now. I'm looking at keeping our clients healthy. That's very important because as we go forward, they need to be there. I need to be here. We have provided a hosting facility to help them with remote working. So this, and ultimately perhaps that'll turn into a business. Right now, I'm not looking at it that way. So that's great points. So the next question I have, Tom and Sonya, you're both salespeople, and this has changed your day-to-day, I'm sure. What should people in sales roles be doing differently today than they were 2 or 3 weeks ago? Sonya, could you go first?
Sure. So I encourage everyone to follow Jade Barrows on LinkedIn. He did, I think it was like earlier this week or last week, he did a great thing on like stop all of your normal cadences. Stop it. Stop it. No more automated emails. Stop it. Like it's not just high catching up or checking in. Please, don't do that. So I've completely stopped. If people haven't responded to me a couple times, I'm putting them to the back burner. There's no way that they're going to purchase anything right now if they haven't responded to me last month. And also all of my calls are just caring. Like I think I get a little irritated with all this like sayings that are happening, right? But we are in this together. And when I call people that I've worked with or haven't worked with yet, it's a real sense of connection that wasn't there before. So we really are in it together. So always lead with that. And I'm really repositioned all my deals to how can we help and how can we make an impact. And another book that I'm going to put in the chat right now is Selling with Noble Purpose and by another author that we follow. So Selling with Noble Purpose, and that is more relevant than ever. You have to be making a difference and wanting to help people in order to make a sale. So that's more relevant than ever. So long answer, but it's really shifted to being even more helping people.
Yeah, Selling with Noble Purpose, great book. Also more relevant than it ever has been, but was very relevant with something we've been implementing before this. And so terrific thought.
Yeah, Tom, how has your cadence changed?
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw that same conversation with the Barrows as well, and it does hit home, right? Because it does make you think about one. I'm fortunate that I'm in a selling position, selling something that some people do still need right now, and it can help. And I'm incredibly grateful for that because I know there's a lot of people. It's an interesting case study in economics to see how different industries are impacted, and I say that one step removed, and there's a lot of people struggling right now, and it's incredibly sad, but I feel grateful for that. But so like looking at it and just kind of going into the echo chamber of empathy, but it is so critical right now because you never know, like there's 3 buckets of people that I'm talking to right now. The vast majority, I would say more than half, are just, let's just kind of pause and see what's happening, right? And evaluate the situation. They might be impacted a little bit, but it's not mission critical or crippling the business. We need to just see what the new norm is. And then there's the bucket where they're doing, you think of the Zooms of the world, right, where the need for their services has skyrocketed, and so they're in a different position. And unfortunately, the other group where they're just trying to figure out if they can make it. And so I think it's incredibly important from like what does it actually mean to practice empathy is to look at who is their customer and how is their business impacted by this, and to have some awareness of who you're reaching out to, or even if you should be reaching out to them. And so I think that's one way of practicing empathy, and just being cognizant of, to your point, Todd, you said, people fall back onto what they're familiar with. And I was just entering sales when the last downfall, when the economic collapse of 2008. I just got out of the Army, was going into the corporate world, started my own business. But it's incredibly difficult. That some of the situations people are dealing with right now are life changing, and you've got to be aware that not everyone is doing okay, and not everyone wants. Well, there's a lot of people that don't want to hear from anybody, but I think there's a portion of people that are in desperate need of services that are out there, and if you know that you can help somebody, be clear on how, and make it be very straightforward on how you can help them, because there's so much happening. You don't want to be wasting people's time. So there's a couple of examples, but yeah, the automation, just stop it. You've got to have, this is the time where you can have human connections and really bring the forefront of that human to human conversations to the reality, because automation it's just not the place right now, because there's too many things that are changing to even put into a cadence anything. So that's how it's impacting me, and how I'm trying to help others with it.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. That's great. I'm going to shift the question to Logan now. Similar question. Has marketing shifted? Do you believe it needs to shift? What needs to be done differently? What are you all doing differently right now?
Yeah, I think marketers are in a very precarious time. We talked about pausing automation. That's difficult when you're a marketing automation platform. But I think it's really important because if you think about in our new kind of socially distanced world, digital content is very important. That's how people are going to be engaging. People are going to be doing their research. They're at home. So if you've embraced digital transformation previously, you're probably in a pretty good spot right now. And you can continue to foster and build relationships through digital engagement. That's not necessarily sending automated drip emails, but just making sure you're delivering people relevant and personalized content, things that are important to the value prop and the solution that they're trying to find. So I definitely think that it's interesting for marketers right now, but I think that what's going to be really important coming out of this is everyone's looking for a sense of community, and businesses that can engage with their customers and their prospects and build community in this digital world. I don't think that's going to go away. I think that these types of conversations, this water cooler idea, is a great idea. And it's a way to build community and build relationships. And I think that's what you're going to continue to see. So marketers need to take a little bit of a different approach into how they're building their community and how they're fostering engagement within their customer base and their user base. Because if you're a revenue-driven marketer, unfortunately, you're probably in for a pretty rough couple of months here. But I think that all businesses need to look at the user base that they have, look at the customers that they have, and focus on just continuing to engage with them and be someone they can communicate with in a variety of means, whether that's the human-to-human interaction and making sure you're enabling your sales team effectively and your account managers effectively, or just as a marketer showing that you as a business are going to be there to support them in the future. So I think, marketers in general are in for an interesting time, but I think that the best ones are going to find new strategies for engagement that are going to go far beyond this current crisis environment.
Yeah, thanks, Logan. I kind of view this. There's two kinds of potential customers out there right now. We've got the V, where business is literally dropping, the bottom is dropping out, and then they're going to come back, and then we have the inverted V, right, where companies who were chugging along and suddenly have huge demand. And what happens here is they're going to be at the top of the V, and then as the economy comes back, they may have hired extra people, and they're going to have to perhaps reverse what they've done. So when we talk about looking for opportunity, there's an example of trying to help. Helping people isn't always. It's always helping those who are affected, but it's also about helping those who are impacted, but giving them the foresight of mitigating what they may have to do in the future when their downturn comes. So we've talked about robotics process automation to help folks, instead of sometimes hiring a bunch of people, that they can come out of this and even be better at the end and have greater efficiencies. But I guess the question would be to you, Logan, again, and maybe to everybody. No, I'll ask the whole panel: is it okay to sell right now? And if it is, are there industries that don't mind being sold to? What are those industries? Who do you think they are? Todd, maybe you could start.
Well, I'll actually ask you, knowing what's going on in your business right now,
yep.
If somebody out there has got something that can really help you through this right now, would you prefer they don't call you and keep it for themselves?
Right.
Or do you prefer that they actually reach out and at least give you the option of, hey, this is working, I know what you're dealing with right now, and if now is not the time, cool. But it's just that understanding, right? If as a CRO, when I was dealing with this kind of stuff before, if somebody has got an idea that's going to help me and they keep it to themselves because, I'm afraid, I don't want to bother them right now, like, I'd be pissed. Like, no, tell me, I want to hear it. So think about that with your customers. If you've got something that in your heart can help them, you better be sharing it. If not, you're actually doing that customer a disservice versus going, I'll leave you alone because I know it's a hard time. So obviously I'm pretty passionate about that answer, but you're in sales or marketing and you've got something that can help, man, don't be shy. You got to let them know. Just, to Sonya's point and everybody else, like, don't put it on a cadence and don't make it about revenue growth.
Right.
It's got to be empathetic.
Right. Thanks. Yeah.
I'll follow up on that. I mean, right now in the sales process in general is about building trust. I think if you do bring something to the table that's going to help them, whether it's, through the current environment or in general, just grow their business. If you can continue to build that trust and continue to establish those relationships, I think people want to have conversations. And I think that it is all about human to human now. So the way that we're engaging with them is a little bit different, but I don't think it's bad to be selling right now. I think poor sales processes and poor sales tactics are very bad, but that's not the current environment. That's just in general. If you run a very strong relationship oriented sales process and you're focusing on building trust and establishing a relationship, I think it's perfectly fine to do it in a very human to human way.
Got it. Thanks. Yeah, Logan, that's great. And are there specific industries that we've identified, do you think, that are in the buy mode that need that assistance that we should be targeting?
I don't know if it's necessarily industries. I think it's everybody. Again, like, as an individual, like, I need toilet paper. Like, right. Everybody's buying something right now. And if you've got something that's going to help, then it doesn't matter what industry it is. People are still spending money. They have to. It's just very focused. This is an opportunistic time to think about, when we're in an upswing, every company's got 50 different things they could spend money on.
Yeah.
In the downswing, there's 3. Right? Take that, use that as an advantage. Hone your messaging to those 3 and sell to everybody, because we're all, like, you can read buyers' minds now. So, like, don't be shy about that. I don't think there's an industry specifically. I think we're all dealing with the same way. And if you can hit one of those 3, hone your messaging to it and get after it.
Yeah, perfect. Anyone else?
There are some long tails that we've been seeing, just because we talk to so many different kinds of companies every day, because BrainSell is not verticalized really. So cannabis industry booming, even home delivery in California right now, because they cut off all of the dispensaries because there were too many people going in this time of stress. We have some manufacturing clients that are retooling to make PPE, so that's really amazing. And uniforms, tech, obviously the med device. So some of them are just in such an upswing that they can't even think about.
Transportation is one I'm thinking of too. We've had some.
What was that?
Transportation.
Transportation, yeah. Yep, trucking is still doing well. So there definitely are some industries that need help.
Yeah, and I'll kind of take that a little bit further, and it's less about the industry, but I think anyone who's got a recurring customer base, anyone who's trying to either retain their current customers or find a repeat buyer, you need to be focusing on customer engagement. And so if you are and this is my shameless plug, you're a customer experience provider, on the sales side, on the support side, the service side, the marketing side, people need those tools. And the more that you can help them, again, build relationships and keep the relationships with their existing customer base, that's what's going to see them through. No one's expecting significant revenue growth, but what they're trying to do is survive, to Todd's point. And survival means keeping your current customer base. It's keeping the revenue that you have so that your business can weather this current storm and come out the other side in a much better position to accelerate growth.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I mean, Sonya and I have even been on a few shared calls as well, but I think it also depends on what you're selling as far as what industries, because like I mentioned, I'm seeing about half of the companies I'm talking to that maybe have impacted, but really just trying to put a pause. And a lot of those organizations, specifically from the CRM piece, if that was something that was on their radar, now is actually a really good time for them to look at that and to start having those conversations. Because if you can make more production out of the downtime by installing some systems in place that you were already looking at anyway, I've seen some projects being escalated, the timeline, when they're not being, if it's not a critical, or a business hasn't been hit too hard by it. So I think to Todd's point, I think sellers are going to sell, marketers are going to market. I think how you do it says more about it right now in this environment.
Yeah, good
And
point.
that's we actually have a client, and that, Tom, what you just explained is painting the factory, which I've been saying a lot lately. But when, you know, that week between Christmas and New Year's, you shut down the factory and you paint the floors. And we actually have a client that's doing that right now. They actually are painting their factory, but some of like the cannabis startups I'm working with, they find this as a fantastic opportunity to get software in place. Now, yeah, we're in a unique, I think, industry at BrainSell where software, so there are a lot of people that need it, but yeah, opportunistic with the downturn, people are getting stuff in place that they didn't have time to do before.
Yeah, good, Sonya. Seems like you're doing a lot with the cannabis industry, Sonya.
Yeah, indeed. It's a green field.
It's a green field, right? Yeah. Okay, I want to make sure we have plenty of time for questions. So I guess for me, I have a question for Todd. I see a lot of people coming out with freemium products right now and service offerings, and they're providing deep discounts. Do you believe that's the right approach?
No. All right, so let's talk about this for a second. So let's start with, as a business, whether you're a CEO, VP of sales, sales rep, any business, when you're selling something, what are the 4 things that you care about? You know, number 1 is volume, so how much they buy. Number 2 is the timing of cash, so how fast they pay. Number 3, length of commitment, so how long they commit. And number 4 is the timing of the deal, or when they sign, so you can forecast. So there's your 4, right? Right now, every business that you're trying to sell to is trying to extend their runway. I've got a side hustle that I run, an early stage tech incubator here in town called Venture Scale. And I work with lots of VCs and lots of private equity firms who are all telling their company owners in their portfolio, hey, trade terms. So don't be shy about trading terms. And what does that mean? Well, instead of discounting, none of your businesses are a charity, right? Like you don't give, like discounting is just giving to their bottom line. Trade terms, what does that mean? Well, for one thing, length of commitment, that third one that I mentioned. Companies right now are willing to extend their terms with you in order to get their dollars down, right? Yes. So pay them in the form of a discount to extend their terms. Pay them in the form of a discount to pay cash faster, right? If you're going to extend and you accelerate cash, we'll pay you in the form of a discount for that. If you're a new business salesperson, get them to help you forecast, mutually align around the timing, and then pay them in the form of a discount to hold to it. Right. Pay them in the form of a discount to commit to more volumes, to more products, to more services. So think about those 4 levers instead of discounting, which is giving for nothing just to be their buddy, which is nice. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be heartless, but at the same time, lead with the 4 levers of, we'll pay you in the form of a discount to do things that we care about that are vital to our business. Because any discount that you give away now, let's fast forward 2 years from now, you're still going to be dealing with that discount you gave away. And so I would just implore you that companies are willing to trade terms, and they're willing to accelerate cash in some cases. They're willing to extend their commitment lengths, and they're willing to help you forecast. Focus on those if you're going to give a discount. And I think you're going to end up with a give to get instead of just a give and hope that they'll be my buddy in 2 years.
Terrific. Any other thoughts from the panelists?
Yeah, I'll second that. I think that companies that are out there trying to offer free services or kind of hook someone with a free offering, I think that just goes back to the poor sales tactics. I think that if you're trying to do that, it kind of screams, hey, we're trying to get as much revenue as possible, and we'll throw out anything to get you in the door. If you firmly stand behind your product and you believe in your offering and what you're bringing to market, it has value. Don't throw that value away. It is perfectly acceptable to ask for a reciprocal value. And Todd hit on it. If you want a discount up front, that's fine, but it should come with longer contract terms, because I'm thinking about how to make your business successful, and you conversely should be thinking about how to make my business successful. Because the more that you're getting discounted down and the more that you're giving products away, frankly, the less you're going to have to invest in your products and invest in your platform. So it's really important to have respect being brought to.
Oh, he went digital on us. Or He's not human. We found the robot. Now, Logan, you went digital. You back?
Yeah, I'm here now.
Okay.
I was
Yeah,
right at my perfect selling point. No, I don't know where I got cut off, but it was basically just completely agreeing with Todd. The fact that you certainly need to make sure that you're bringing value to your product and that you're asking for something in return. And the more that you are discounting and giving away product is actually inhibiting your investment in your R&D in your own product. So the more that you give away up front, the less the customer is going to get on the back end, because you're not going to be able to bring products to market faster.
Yep.
Yeah, very good point. We're coming up close to Q&A time. I want to make sure we stay on track. I have one more question, and this question is for not just the panelists, but for the audience as well. But before I ask the question, I also want to make sure I note something, that there is currently, the government's provided, I think it's $850 billion to support the payment protection program to keep people employed. If you're working for a company that hasn't considered this and it's under 500 employees, I would suggest you perhaps get that to them. I think the first day for application is Friday, and it has a forgivable amount on the loan. So if you are applying it to, and by the way, you need to read this stuff to make sure I'm accurate, but it provides you a forgivable aspect of the loan for if you're using it for pay purposes, and you're using it for lease or rents or mortgages. It's even available to gig employees or subcontractors. So look it up. It's on the SBA.gov website. It'll describe it to you. We are in fact doing this. I want to make sure we provide continuity to our team. So we have made the application. It's certainly a great way to keep people employed. No furloughs, no layoffs. Okay. Last question, and this is not just for the panelists. This is for everybody out there in the audience. What are some of the companies right now, or who are some of the companies that are getting it right? And what are they doing to get it right? I'd like to hear some examples of who's getting it right out there right now, and how they're selling and how they're marketing in this time of uncertainty, and what are they doing? Sonya?
One of the first car commercials after this really got bad was GMC doing the 0% and like 90 days on your first payment. And the tone of their ads was great. Like, it wasn't sales. It just, for some reason, I felt like they got it right. Then Honda followed, and all the other ones are doing it now.
Sure, right. Anybody else?
Yeah, there's a company that I'm on the board of here in town, in Chicago. They're called Gibbs, but they had, between us kids, they had essentially gotten their death sentence about 6 weeks ago, where they had very little cash runway, and they were having trouble with getting funding. So they were trying to move up to a Series A, and it did not seem like it was happening. Then all of this happened. They immediately shifted their messaging around from being a nice to have type of technology for retailers to being a must have at a time. What Gibbs does is they're kind of like the Amazon Smile for retailers, where you can go and give a percentage, Amazon will give a percentage of your purchase to the charity of your choice. What Gibbs did is they doubled down on that, went to every retailer and just said, hey, this is probably a good time to be very transparent about who you're giving to, and then give the customers a good feeling at the time of purchase, which is not just a nice to have, but it's a must have right now. So that was number one, is they changed their messaging. Number two was that they found that their messaging was resonating with a very specific vertical, not just apparel, it was shoes. I know that's weird, but they got Crocs, they got, there was two other ones right away, and they realized, hey, you know what? Shoes is really resonating. Let's do what I call extreme focus. In a downturn, find where you're really, really strong, gain extreme focus on that vertical. Everybody on your sales team suddenly will become an expert on shoes or whatever the vertical it is. And then you'll be able to lend so much more credibility to the customers you're able to talk to. And the companies I've seen, instead of go, hey, we're going to cast a wider net, are actually casting a much thinner net or much tighter net. And they're finding success. Gibbs was one that I've seen that's done that really, really well lately. And I'm seeing some other ones shift in the same way.
Terrific.
Yeah,
But
I think one that I'll throw out there is Uber. Frankly, when Uber Eats started waiving delivery fees for local restaurants, that segment is getting hit incredibly hard. And if you look at unemployment and furloughing and everything that's happened to the restaurant industry, it's very difficult for them. Uber Eats is by no means a moneymaker for that business. And the fact that they're going to waive the additional revenue on top of it, I think is a profound move to help local communities and help keep those businesses thriving, because they're in for a very tough couple of weeks here.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. I've really enjoyed seeing how local businesses respond, small mom and pop shops. There's one here in Cary, North Carolina called Cone. They're a deli bakery shop, and their business has been decimated by what's going on without having people come in. So to see them pivot, right, and to be able to now you can order in, you can order now some of the things that they had in stock, like eggs, lettuce. You can order groceries from them. They'll actually deliver it to your house in addition to the bread. And they're throwing in, of all things, toilet paper as part of the order. But it's just, to me, like there's a little bit of influence that they have in the local economy, and to see the grit and creativity behind the local businesses and how they're responding to the environment it's incredibly inspiring to see that. And I've actually now intentionally looking, whether it's Uber Eats or something, for very local businesses, because I know DoorDash, they highlight local businesses first on the app now too. So that's something I've seen that I think is pretty cool.
Terrific. We're at that time. I want to make sure we give first respect to the time folks who've joined us today. Sarah, shall we open it up to questions?
Yep. So just a reminder, if you have questions, you can either raise your hand or just click on the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen and add your question there. But a couple that have come in. First one, this is a sales-related question, but with everyone working remotely, are you guys having trouble getting a hold of people, and do you have tips?
If we're having trouble, I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah.
It says with everyone working remotely, are you having trouble getting a hold of people, and do you have tips? Got it.
Yeah. I'm going to answer first. It's interesting. We did a call out with our clients, and I almost had 100. I've never had 100% connection rate, and it was high degree of connections. Having said that, everybody is remote, and you have to be creative. So sometimes you can't just walk through the front door. You have to get through the basement window. I always say to folks here, you've got to figure out a way to get to them. And that might be following a breadcrumb in order to get to finally to a cell phone. So there are some creative ways to do that. I was just on this morning talking to one of our folks who are remote, and I had to go to procurement to ultimately find the person and their remote number. But I got that.
Yep, and I'm finding that we are getting a hold of people more too. If it seems like technology, people are having no trouble with usually getting their office phone forwarded to their cell phone, and I'm getting a big connection rate too. But LinkedIn messaging, and then just being honest, if you're not connecting with someone, then maybe it's not the right time, and you should respect that. I think I'm finding that too, is like, I'm not doing the "are you stuck under a rock" email, because that's kind of cruel. So if someone's not responding, honestly, I'm kind of leaving them alone. We'll push it out a couple months.
Yeah, great point. All right, next question. Any suggestions on how to engage and create community outside of Zoom chats? Are there other channels to do this?
Yes.
Isn't Sugar doing something in a different platform, or?
In terms of building community?
Yeah.
What we're focusing on is actually trying to highlight what some of our customers are doing. So I think that it's always great when you can talk to your vendor or your partner about what they're doing and getting ideas from them. But I think being able to talk to other customers and talk to other businesses in your industry or in other industries about what's working for them and what's not, how are they seeing success, is really important. So what we're trying to do is actually highlight what some of our customers and partners are doing to help build community and establish these relationships. This is, again, a great example of the efforts of our partner and our customers to engage with people in a mechanism that we haven't traditionally done. So I'd say, you know, there's certainly all of the webinar platforms are great, but any way that you can connect customers to other customers or prospects to prospects so that they can have another outlet and another person that they can communicate with, I think is a fantastic effort.
So other forms would be Google Hangouts. I think it's free. Google Hangouts. It never really took off, but we do use it occasionally. Of course, you have Skype, Teams. If you have Teams, it's a part of your Office 365 package. You could use Teams. What else is there out there? Anybody else? I did a quick search, but there is a series of free if one is looking for free.
I've got a tool, Jim, that I've been using for a long time, but it seems appropriate now than ever. So Loom, L-O-O. Loom is a free video recording tool. I've told a lot of my friends who are teachers about it. I use it. It's kind of like Vidyard if you've used that. So it's free. It does instant screen and video capture. So like this morning I did a proposal and CFO is super busy. So I made a quick Loom video reviewing my Excel sheet of what I had given him. And then you get a notification when people view it. So that's pretty cool. And for community, you know, you can make a company announcement and then people can go on and comment on it and do emojis all through Loom. And then I'm seeing some stuff in the chat too, Slack, Soapbox.
Yep, Soapbox. Bonnie is mentioning Soapbox, Wisteria, Slack, yep.
Yep, that's great. And we did a happy hour, yappy hour with our dogs.
We did, yeah.
Employees who were available. I got on with my cat and my dog and we all had wine.
Sugar's been doing that.
It was really nice.
Virtual happy hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, that's
it's nice. Oh, and everyone
related
personal.
to another question of how do you promote
Okay, good.
remote work practices. So yeah, the kind of like the coming together, right? The social opportunities internally are as important as the ones that you're trying to have with your customers and prospects. But what other ways are you all within your companies? How are you promoting good remote work practice?
Set hours, I think, for yourself.
Yes.
Like, you know, you can, if you're a really great worker, you're apt to just not get up and you just keep pounding away. So I tell my husband, like, okay, I'm going to be done at, 6 o'clock tonight. And then we're going to go for a walk and then we're going to have dinner. So set your limits, I think, is my advice.
Hey, there's one stat that I've got to share because I'm a nerd, but after a medical event, let's say somebody who has a heart attack and they're sent home by the doctor with instructions on new lifestyle changes. You know what percentage of people actually do the lifestyle changes? Only 30%. Like after a heart attack, doctor sends you home and says, this is what you need to start doing. Only 30% of people do it and it's their life, right? So we're now in an environment where we're sending our employees home to work remotely and we're giving them instructions on what to do. And it's not even life or death. And you could probably imagine it's probably less than 30% that's actually doing what you're asking them to do.
Right.
So a couple of things that I would just encourage. Number one is think about the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation is do this or else, or it's we're going to pay you for doing stuff like money, 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 money. Intrinsic motivation is what you find when you wake up in the morning and you can't wait to get after it. And those are things like giving validation and recognition to people as often as you can, make them feel appreciated, be empathetic with their world, right? That drives intrinsic motivation. Help them predict the future a little bit. If you can figure out ways to do that. I know everything's uncertain and nobody can predict anything, but ways that you can help them at least predict a week out will keep them more engaged. Give them freedom. Daily check-ins with your direct reports sucks because they'll spend a half an hour prepping for the bullshit that they're going to give you. But allow them to connect as a group without you as a leader. So if you're a leader, make sure that they're getting together as a group as often as possible because now they can't turn and share a joke. Give them the tools to do that. Encourage family and connection, not only as a group, but with their families. And then the last thing is function. Make sure that you've thought about why their work matters to you and why their work matters to their customer's customer. And make sure that that's top of mind for them, that they're not just selling something, they're not just marketing something, but it matters to the people that are actually using it. And make sure they feel that every day. If you can combine those things, the extrinsic goes away, the variable compensation becomes the reward instead of the motivator, and you keep people highly engaged, wanting to stay, wanting to tell their friends, and wanting to do their best every day. So that's my rant for today.
It's a great rant.
And it's true about the bullshit with the 30-minute preparation.
I was looking at Tom's face, and I knew that was.
Well, yeah, it's like, what can I tell my boss to make him seem like I worked really hard today? And
Right.
I got to think about that. That's crap. I like do the check. You still should do your one-on-ones. That's so
Right.
important. But make them focused on validation, recognition, and feedback.
Mhm.
Make it less about do, and make it more about, hey, how can I support you? And thank you for doing what you do every day, because I know it sucks right
That's great, Todd. Thank you. Questions? More questions?
Here's one. So there's been a lot of emails going out around COVID and the coronavirus. At what point do we stop mentioning that in our outreach emails?
That's
Is
a great
that still
question.
important?
My one-word answer is now.
Yeah, inundated.
Yeah. And
Stop
it's
the reminders.
kind
We
of
all know.
Yeah, and we were actually talking with one of our partners that we work with last week, and just it's getting to the point where the behavior is for people, if they see that language, they're just deleting. They don't want to read it anymore. They're becoming numb to it. So I think you risk even people reading something that you have valuable to say by including that in your outreach.
Agreed.
By the way, I do think it's really important to each individual who is remote to find some activities to get that dopamine going. Exercise, get out, take a walk. Because I know when I left and I'm the only one left in this office, so I'm all alone. I know. Everybody, don't cry.
We're all alone in our offices.
Yes, I know, but it's rather large to see nobody out there. No, and I've noticed when I left yesterday, I feed off of the energy of the people that are in the office. So there's a little bit of a vibe that drops for me. So what I did was I went home, got on that bike, and I rode, just to get a sweat going. It just helps.
And if you're a leader, I would encourage all of your the people that report to you to put time in their calendar for that. And like, I want to see it. You know, half an hour a day is just, go take a walk. Like, you put it on your calendar and make it a pronounced part of your day. I totally agree with that. That's all.
Yep.
Yeah, that's such a good idea. My nephew, he's 11, and part of his remote learning, they have to do 30 minutes of PE per day and send a video to their teacher. So it's almost like you could do something like that, right, internally with your employees.
It just struck me. We should be doing is we do yoga here on Wednesdays when we're in the office at 1 o'clock. We have a teacher come. We should get our teacher to do virtual yoga for us.
Yeah.
Right? And then we have meditation on Fridays. We should do
and we
virtual
can have
meditation.
people join.
Absolutely. All right.
Customers.
Here we go.
That's a great idea.
All right,
Sheldon says, get moving and dancing.
I love it.
That's great.
It.
Hey, and folks, if you want to come off mic and you want to ask a question, just do so. Or off mute.
I think everyone has
I think you have your own controls.
power.
I don't, we want to be respectful of your time, but if you have further questions, ask. If you want to come off mute and ask a question, ask Todd. We're very fortunate to have him with us today, and all the rest of the panelists, Tom and Logan, Sonya and Sarah, please ask away.
And
Sean, we see you, Sean. Hope you're good, buddy.
I was just going to say that I think all of us probably agree with this, that you can reach out to any of us anytime. Like, it doesn't need to be a part of this webinar. I've got a lot of downtime, and I'd love to be able to help. So just reach out. I'm easy to find. Quick Google search will annoy the hell out of your browser. So
good. So I'm going to leave. I guess if there's no other questions, and I'll pause for a second. Are there any other questions?
It doesn't. I think we've covered it. But again, we'll be sending out a follow-up email tomorrow morning We'll include contact information. We'll include the link to the recording. So feel free to continue to ask us questions beyond the session today.
Yeah, please do. Make sure our contact information, LinkedIn, and so forth is available. I just want to leave everybody with this. As you go forward and you're thinking about people who are impacted in their businesses or personally, reach out to them and send them little pieces of information that you know could literally help them, whether it be the PPP loan act, or whether it be something that helps their business somehow, some way. Think about them. You know, I think people need to hear from you right now. It's an odd time. I've never been through this, anything like this. It's way different than the big recession. So take care of each other, love each other, and we're all here to help each other. We're all facing the same issues.
Awesome. Thank you,
Well,
everyone.
thanks for hosting
Thank you,
this.
everyone.
Yeah. Thank you very much to all our
Thanks, everyone,
panelists,
for
Todd,
joining.
Tom, Logan, Sonya, and Sarah, and thank you all for coming to this today. We really appreciate you joining, and we're grateful to see you here. Bye-bye.
Bye.